Okay, here we go. First tutorial for, there'll probably be three tutorials to finish this project. Um, let's get started. So your name and then 3D printed and then sports car, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to work backwards in this model. So what I've done is I've already created some geometry here, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll the timeline back to the beginning, and that's how I'm going to do this tutorial. And so at the very beginning, we have three things we're going to do first before we even get started. And that is put in the background image and then put in some limits for the overall size of the project. So this first one, I'm going to call it the ground outline plane. And if I show it here, if I hit the eyeball, you'll see it's a sketch. What I'm going to have you do is, put that in as a center point rectangle from the center, and then just drag out and drop it anywhere because it doesn't really matter, and because you're going to dimension it. And in your case, make sure that the width overall dimension is 5 inches, because otherwise it wouldn't fit in our wind tunnel tester. And then the length, we'll limit that to 10 inches. So you're going to get a rectangle that's slightly smaller than the one you'll see I created, because I realized that the proper dimensions for the wind tunnel need to be 5 by 5 height and width to fit. I'm going to go ahead and undo the one I just added here, and then just keep going. The next thing I add is a profile limit here, outline. And so that is going to be a sketch in this case. So you select sketch and you click on the right plane. And then this case, just put in the 2-point corner rectangle. And you'll see I just kind of drag up and drop it. And I then again really just dimension each of these. So that was going to be 5. And in this case, you're going to put in 10. I put in 11 originally, but you make sure you put in 10, okay? So I'm going to control Z, undo that one that I did. Actually, it probably won't affect anything. I just got to make sure because it could change my model. So if I'm not careful, I don't think it will, though. I actually don't even need it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to put in now that we got these limits for the ground plane here set and the side, I put in my background image. So just to make sure you guys remember how to do that, you add images from this little plus symbol down here, and you can import your images. And if I import, I already downloaded my image here. And I could upload it and pick it. And then all that does is that loads it into the software. You need to have a sketch to load the image in. And so in this case, I would sketch and I would pick again the right plane. And then I'm going to view it from the right here. And I could go to this tool and say, no, I'm sorry, wrong one. Over here, DXF, insert image. Pick on the image that I want to insert, and then that's where I'm just going to drag it out. So in this case, just as long as you keep it under within the limits of the background rectangle size-wise, then that will work. And you can see that one was a little big. I can just Control Z and try and do it again. And then just kind of move it into place from there. Once again, I actually already did that, so I don't need that. But that's the step that we're at. Now, next two things we're going to do is I'm just going to start by making my front opening. And in this case, I'm working from a knowledge of what kind of opening that I want. In the case of most of you guys, you're going to have to pull up an image of the car that you're working on. If you have a front image of it, you can add it to the front plane right here. And you can sketch on that front plane and you can insert your front image. I personally wanted my opening here at an angle. So the first thing I actually had to do was to make the front opening plane here. And I wanted to tip it at an angle for my case. So what I did was I created plane and I said align an angle plane. And what happens when you do that, if you select a line, in this case I could select this front line, and it allows you to define the angle. And so that's what I did, is I decided that relative to the normal plane, I think I tipped mine 15 degrees. Yeah. And that created this front opening. And then I renamed it, by the way. I renamed it by right-clicking on it. I rename it front opening. And then I make my front opening curve. So I'm going to scroll the timeline back and show you how I created that. So I sketched on the front opening and I view it from the front, and then I use the spline tool. And in this case, up from the center, I put in a couple of points and then I double clicked to end it right there. For any of you who may have chose like a muscle car or a Dodge, this is very similar opening. I put a line here at the bottom there because I want to close the whole profile out so it's a closed section. And I'm going to hit escape or right click escape to get out of that tool. And that's where I'm going to actually mirror this over. So you guys saw this trick before when we did the Automo blocks. I'm sorry, no, I keep picking the wrong tools. I need to pick the mirror line tool. And the first thing you pick in the mirror line tool is the entity to be mirrored. Or it's the, let me hit the escape and show you this again. So I'm going to right click, escape mirror line. When you pick the mirror line tool, the first thing it wants is the mirror line. So I pick the center here of the model, and then the entity to be mirrored is this. And I also pick that. Then it shades and closes that profile. And I'm going to right click, escape the mirror tool. And I can still edit, features of this curve on the one side, and it updates. Now you'll see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 points that make up that spline. And it's important to note that this will be my belt line curve of my vehicle going all the way down the side of the car. And so you'll see me use that point again in this. So for me, for this case, I didn't need that. I'm going to delete it because I already created my front opening curve here. And then the rear deck plane and rear deck sketch. Okay. So in this case, I decided to go for I wanted a big, bulky rear deck. I'm going to actually have this mostly open in the back so air can flow out the back end of my car. But uh, so it's almost the exact same thing that we just saw on the front plane, all right? I made a plane at an angle again. And again, that's line. That's when you create the plane, you choose the plane at a line and angle, okay? And then I click on that plane, I sketch on that plane similar. You can see I have a 2-point curve. I mirrored it over. So, and then I just put in, I wanted to create wheels. And so one of the things I did was do that. That's just going to be I just created those sketches of the wheels on on the right plane. So you can kind of see it underneath, or if you really, I get in the habit of just picking the right plane up here from the left menu. So you see it highlighted right there. And I put in the 2 center point circles for my wheels just to get them in there. And you can do the same thing if you wish right here. Now, sill sketch. So that's the first of the splines going front to back that I created. And that's this one right here. And so I'm going to actually back this up to before I had the sill sketch there and show you what I did. So this is where you're going to pick the top plane. That bottom plane really is ground plane. And sketch on that. So a new sketch. And I connected the whole front and back of the car to this little point on my front opening because that's the look I want. And so I did a spline, and I'm going to go ahead and view this from the top. That's good practice, so you can kind of see it there. And I'm going to go ahead and stay away from this line because otherwise it might lock to it. So I'm going to come back. There we go. There's 2 points for the front curve. And if you want to come back again, a lot of cars have this kind of feature where they come back again and bulge out a little bit for the rear wheel. Let's see if I can zoom in on that a little better so you can see it. And then I'm going to double click right there. So you can see that spline to do that curve is a total of 1 at the start, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total points on that spline. And then I'm going to not accept that because I'm going to just unshow the one that I did create there. And in this case, I was going for a smoother look. So I had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 splines that I used on my ground plane. Sill, and I call that the sill in the vehicle. That's actually called the sill, just like it is in architecture, the kick plate or sill of the door. In this case, the whole vehicle. The wheel disc element, I'm going to undo that one. Really, all that was it actually created, and you can kind of see it down here. I have it unshown here, is I just extruded the wheel portion because I wanted to make sure that I got my surface to go around that wheel. And so I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later to make that make sense. Is I want to pull out my surface enough to get around my wheel. So in that case, what I did is just extruded that circular profile that I had in the right plane, and I I made it skinny like a motorcycle wheel. In this case, it was 0.2 inches, and I did a starting offset. And what that does is puts that 3 inches between it. And so I put that 3.1 inches between it. So, and it only extruded it 4.2 inches. I made it pretty thin. Okay, the ridge line spline. So in this case, that's this spline here. I put that one in, and when I did that one, I just did it on the right plane. So you can just select on the right plane, sketch on the right plane, and make your spline. In this case, I did a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point spline as well. And you'll see that it's raised up a little bit over the top of my sketch feature here. You won't be doing that, but I did that just because I decided that I just needed a little bit more headroom for my concept car than I had in my original sketch. So just ignore that. And then I needed to do my belt line and belt line plane, and then my belt line sketch. And then we're almost done. Hold on. I know this is sometimes confusing because it's all new, but it's almost there. Okay. So the next thing is I want my belt line. And most cars have a very strong character line going along the top of the door called the belt line. And so the first thing I do was create that plane. And in this case, it's going to be a 3-point plane. So let me show you how that plane is created. And I'll kind of show you in this case where it is right there. You can see it tipped over here. And I'll show you how to create that, okay? So you do this plane tool. And then instead of offset or any, you're going to do 3-point. It used to be the only way to create a plane because 3 points define a plane. In this case, I remember how I mentioned this point. I'm going to pick that point on the spline as one of the points to create that plane. And then I'm going to pick one of the 2 points in the rear. And I pick that higher point up here on the rear spline. And so that was the third point, or the second point. And then I need a third point to finish this plane. And so what I did is a age-old trick I've used in previous years is just pick this point here in the middle of that ground plane sketch. And so I'll go ahead and pick it, and then you'll see it creates a plane right on top of the one I already created. So now you're going to pick that plane, sketch on it, and you create your belt line sketch. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and show that so you can see mine. Again, that's my belt line sketch. And it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spline points again. And got a call coming in here. Sorry, guys. What I'm going to show you at this point is I decided I wanted, and a lot of you guys will need 2 more of these. So I'll kind of talk about them really quick. But what I did was, and forgive me, I kind of forgot to go back over here and name them. But I'm going to scroll the timeline up and show it to you. And then I can kind of actually, what I'll do is come back here, take this time and I pull it up. Yeah. So I needed one more control spline through here for my curvature. So what I did is I created another point, another plane, and let me go find it for you. Sorry for, yeah, there it is. And that plane was created as a line and angle plane. And in this case, it is it is something. Actually, sorry, guys. I think There it is. Sorry. I think it was this sketch number 1. That's right. So what I did is I sketched on the front plane. This is a little added step that you have to do to get that plane where you want it. And then I drew a line from the center point just vertically. It's a construction line only. Hit escape. And then what I was able to do is pick the plane tool and do a line and angle plane. And in this case, I had the line that I wanted in the middle so that I could pick it. And I'm going to go ahead and show it there. So I picked that line, and then it gave me the plane with the rotating tool, and I rotated that plane over to right behind that front tire where I wanted that additional sketch control to make sure that my body goes over my wheel. Okay? So I'm just going to... Oh, it's looking for feedback here. I'm just going to undo that because I already had that created. And then I picked on that plane and sketched that additional element. So you'll see that is right here. I'm going to double click on it and you can see it real quick, and then also view it from the front. So you'll see I had to pull that sketch up a little bit, this blue one, and it's a 4-point spline sketch. Now, I promised you were almost there and almost done. And that's where, after I had those spline elements created, I was able to go in here and fill these faces. And that's what these next 3 elements are. So I'll show you how those are done. And then I mirrored it all over to the other side. And I'm not showing those elements over here. If I scroll to surfaces, you'll see that some of them I've hid, but what I'll do is I'll try and show it to you really quick and wrap up this video. So actually what I'll do is just kind of scroll back to where I was with my belt line. I had my belt line, my sill, my ridge line, and then my additional control spine behind the front wheel. And so now we can go here under the tool here of the plane. There's a lot of tools that we really haven't used much. In this case, we're going to use the fill tool. And the fill tool will fill in and make a surface of all of these elements. So if I pick the ridge line, the front or right side of the front opening, and the sill curve in the rear opening, what you'll see is it actually puts in a surface there for you. Now that's not what I want because I wanted more control over it. So in this case, I'll fill these separately. So I actually picked the ridge line, kind of that front door cut line, that lower sill, the right opening, and it put in a surface there that I do want. And you can kind of lightly, it's light in there. And actually, I lied. That's not what I did. One more time. I actually picked the belt line, the front door, the ridge line, and then the front opening. And then it created that surface for me. And over here, I want to make sure, by the way, that it says new. Now it didn't show it because there's already one there, and then you're basically going to do that same trick for all of these fills. So let me undo mine so you can see them. There they are. And they're all separate, and that's fine for right now. We'll join them all together and make the next step of this project is make this into a solid model that we can 3D print and design the wheels. And then the last trick for this lesson would be the mirroring. So I want to mirror over each one of these panels, and the first thing I need to do is select the entities to mirror. So I pick that surface, that surface, that surface, and that surface. And then lastly, down here, I pick the mirror plane. In that case, it'll be that right plane. And then you'll get that to mirror over. And now if I view this with perspective on, I get a better feel for what kind of vehicle I've created here. And I'll be honest with you, I really like mine because it's kind of a shape I've been looking for the concept car I've been working on my own. So I'm happy with it, and I can test it and 3D print it for aerodynamics and kind of test a few other things that concepts that I've been working on a long time on my concept here. I hope that you've had success. This brings you success. I'm always here to help you guys. Okay.